Big neighbours Manchester United, because it was a big day for them yesterday, wasn't it? Sacking their head coach Ruben Amorim and putting Darren Fletcher in temporary charge. Sani Rudravajula is in Manchester for us now. Sani, good morning to you. Have we got any update on who could be taking that job permanently at Old Trafford yet?
Yeah, good morning, Will. Well, no massive update just yet, but of course we do know that Darren Fletcher will be addressing the media this afternoon at 5 o'clock, and we'll have that live on Sky Sports News ahead of playing Burnley tomorrow. We believe assisting him will be Travis Binion and Alan Wright, who've both worked with him in the youth setup. Of course, Fletcher hasn't been in that role at the under-18s very long at all, but he was previously part of the club working alongside John Murtough, also looking at loans as well. So he has that experience within the club, and he'll be taking charge tomorrow. I mean, some of the names in the frame. Yesterday, Will, I spent the day on Market Street in the centre of town, and I got every single name was thrown at me. Looking at the odds at the moment, the favourite right now is Oliver Glasner, who's currently at Crystal Palace, of course. So that's one name thrown out. The next favourites, one of them is Gareth Southgate, who's available on a free, if you like. He's not he's obviously not with a job at the moment. One of the names that was said to me a lot was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and a lot of fans said to me that was kind of a heart over head kind of person would like to be brought in because of the success or the way he played when he was there. But at the moment, you could almost pull out any name and they could potentially be one that United fans would entertain. I think what we understand is as well, when you think about the PSR issues that United have had as far as the headroom to bring in signings go, they've had to spend money to bring in Ruben Amorim. They've obviously paid him for the time that he's been manager, and now they've had to pay him then when he's left. So who they might bring in, again, there might not be that amount of finance to compensate another club. So then you would be looking at managers who are not working at the moment. And, you know, just to stir the pot ever so slightly, Will, if you take somebody like Gareth Southgate, his most recent experience at England, well, that's a place where obviously you're not signing players, you're bringing them in, but you're essentially working with who you've got. You're changing a culture, you're trying to get everyone on side, trying to unite them all and bring some positivity back. Well, that would be something that any future United manager would have to do. For now, that's Darren Fletcher's job, and we'll have to wait and see how he gets on. Other names thrown in that have that similar sort of connection: Michael Carrick, maybe Kieran McKenna at Ipswich Town, but all that is yet to come out in the wash. And for now, it's Darren Fletcher's job, and we'll hear what he has to say this afternoon.
Sani, thank you very much. And you can see Darren Fletcher's first press conference after taking the interim head coach role from 5 p.m. right here on Sky Sports News today. Fletcher will lead the side into the first United match of the post-Amorim era, live on Sky Sports Premier League at Strugglers Burnley. That's from 6 o'clock tomorrow. Jeff Hendrick, I just wonder how this all pans out in terms of United's transfer policy in the window. Obviously, Jason Wilcox, there are a lot of chefs in that kitchen. Omar Barada, Christopher Vavell as well, who's head of recruitment at Old Trafford. And of course the players who've been on the fringe, one of them being Kobbie Mainoo. We all say on the outside, you know what it's like on the inside of those walls. Clean slate, you know, everyone's got a new chance. Do you think it works like that?
Yeah, for the first day. Probably, but I'm sure whoever is taking over, obviously Fletcher's taking over now, and whoever comes in the long term, they will have their opinion on certain players, but then you're lucky you get a chance where in training you might be able to change that opinion. But I know everyone's obviously screaming for Kobbie Mainoo to be getting some minutes, so I think it could be really good for him, especially coming into this World Cup. Everyone's saying he has to go out on loan and get minutes under his belt, so it could be the perfect timing for him, and after sitting around, he's ready to go. Just
finally on that, do you see Fletcher sticking Mainoo straight back in the team?
I don't see why not. I think everyone's talking about the midfield and the way it's not working. He's not really got a chance. Obviously Fletcher knows playing midfield for Man United, and he's probably seen him come up through the ranks, and for him to put him in and maybe give him guidance and clear messages could be good for him.
Yeah. Breaking news, Liam Rosenior has confirmed this morning that he will become the new Chelsea head coach. We're awaiting official confirmation from Chelsea themselves, but speaking in the last few minutes at Strasbourg, he has said this, not signed yet, but he's verbally agreed a contract with Chelsea. He is only doing this news conference because of his love and admiration for Strasbourg, who of course play in the French Ligue 1. He says, I was given permission to speak to one of the biggest sporting clubs in the world. Liam goes on to say, it looks like I'm going to be the next manager of that football club, Chelsea, an opportunity that I cannot turn down. Jeff Hendrick, it's a big opportunity for him. He's a young coach, 41 years old. Just a bit of context as well. Last season in Ligue 1 in France, Strasbourg punching above their weight, part of Blue Coast, of course, connected with Chelsea, but only finished 3 points away from the Champions League places. Is this exciting from a Chelsea fan's point of view, do you think?
I think so, yeah. Like you said, Liam's gone and done the rounds. He's, learned his trade as a coach, then as a manager, and then going over there, probably took himself out of eyesight of everyone here in England. And like you said, he's done a great job. And for this to come up, he'd be rubbing his hands together. The excitement to go and work with a top class squad in Chelsea.
Yeah. Does it make a lot of sense, this, Chris, in terms of the players that he's already coached? I mean, Andre Santos, who's in that Chelsea midfield, speaks so highly of him. He was at Strasbourg on loan last season. Jordi Petrovic, of course, has since moved on from Chelsea, gone to Bournemouth. But a player that's coming in Emmanuel Emega as well. Whether Liam lasts that long, that's in the summer of 26. There's a lot of connections between the two clubs, and they think very highly of him at Chelsea.
Yeah, they definitely will. We know he's been in the Blue Coast system, so Chelsea have obviously had eyes on him for a while, but it's just not that he's just in the system, it's the job that he's done there as well. He's done such a fantastic job at Strasbourg, like you said, really close to actually getting in the Champions League last season. I think the fact, as Jeff alluded to there, is that he's worked his way up in, as a youth coach at Brighton. He's done the rounds at Derby as well, did a really good job at Hull, bit unlucky to get sacked there. So he's done his rounds as a coach. I think Wayne Rooney was talking about yesterday how good of a coach he is, and by being in that system, obviously Chelsea have had eyes on him for a while. So yeah, it's obviously a massive opportunity for him. I think they'll like the fact he's worked with young players all through his coaching career so far, especially at Brighton and at Hull, the likes of Fabio Carvalho did such a good job with as well. But yeah, it's a whole different step up to Chelsea, isn't it? But
well, that's what the cynics will say.
What a squad he's got to handle, mate.
Jeff, that's what they'll be saying, won't they? I mean, a lot of players that you played with at Derby when he was there with Wayne Rooney as a coach. It's one thing Derby and in League One at the time, going to the Championship. It's one thing Hull in the Championship. It's one thing Strasbourg in Ligue 1, away from the microscope of the Premier League. This is Chelsea. Yeah. So he's going to be under fire if he doesn't, start off well. But I think the thing with Liam and knowing people who played with him and worked closely to him early in his coaching career, he's obsessed with the game. I think that, and for you to be a good coach or manager, that obsession, because the hours you have to put in it's crazy, really. And he's gone and done that for several years now. And to get an opportunity like this, I said he'll be loving it because he is willing to put them hours in and put the work in to build himself as a manager. Yeah, and when you look at the games that he's got to come, I mean, it all comes thick and fast in the Premier League, especially a team that's competing in the Champions League. Up against his old team, Fulham, he won't be in charge for that one. Callum McFarlane in the dugout for that tomorrow night. But that's not the worst run, Jeff, is it, to come into? And he's got an opportunity to get Chelsea into the top 8 of the Champions League. Paphos and Napoli currently just outside those top 8 places. Arsenal, a League Cup semi-final with potentially Manchester City or Newcastle in the final. Silverware early doors, potentially. Yeah,
it'd be a dream start for him. There's some nice games on paper there, but then some also difficult ones as well. So I'm sure he'd be just eager to get on the pitch and start coaching, because, like we said there in Strasbourg, it was a young enough squad, and now coming into Chelsea, I think it's young and it's perfect and fits his style of coaching.
Yeah, and it remains to be seen what Chelsea do in the window, because I'm sure he will be excited, Liam Rosenior. I say Rosenior, by the way, people will be throwing things at the screen. That is actually how you say his name.
Let's
with his dad for 10 years. Let's start it, let's see if it sticks. I know people say Rosenior is Rosenior, but say what you like. Liam Rosenior looks like he's going to be the next Chelsea head coach. Let's move on, guys, and talk about Mark Gahey, because it's our understanding that Crystal Palace Palace are expected to consider offers below last summer's asking price in January, with Manchester City set to have discussions about whether to bring forward their summer plans for a new centre-back this month. Chris, just firstly, bring us up to date with this contract situation that he's involved in now.
Yeah, look, so I think everyone knows about Mark Gay's contract situation, but just to kind of reiterate, we know that ends at the end of the summer. So Mark Gay will be able to leave on a free transfer. Because we're in January now, he is free to talk to foreign clubs as well. And we know that he's been interested. The clubs that are interested in him are the likes of Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and others as well. But look, the main two that we've been talking about here at Sky Sports News has basically been Liverpool and Manchester City. Now, with these injuries that Manchester City have suffered in the last week, that's where this interest comes from, and that's where we seem to have seen it accelerate. Mark Gahey, though, he's got all these options open to him, and he's got so many different ways that he can play this. You know, like I said, he's free to talk to these foreign clubs. He's free to join Manchester City if they go and make an offer. We know Liverpool were close to signing him at the last day of the last transfer window. It was only for Igor Julio moving to West Ham from Crystal Palace that move kind of collapsed. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Jeff, I don't know if I know you actually did move on a free transfer, so yeah. When you've got a player like this in January, what do you think's kind of going through his head? What do you think the right move to make is when you've got kind of all of these options open to you?
I think that's the main point. He's got that many options. He didn't get his move. How long did it take him to get over that? Who knows? But is he moving now in January because it suits Crystal Palace and it might not suit him? So does he sit and wait? And for me, going to City, yeah, they've got an injury crisis pretty much, but I think if he stays at Palace, he plays every game. I think that's a massive thing going into the World Cup, and then who knows at City, and if Pep doesn't like him, he won't start every game, and he wants to be going into that squad.
Well, he might at the moment, Jeff, just purely because of the injury.
Because of that, yeah.
You'll know more about fracturing a shin, which is apparently what Vardiola's done. That's not going to be back quickly, is it, for the Croatian? Obviously, Diaz limped off against Chelsea as well. Who needs him more, do you think, though, out of Liverpool and Manchester City?
Who needs him more? I would say Man City, definitely. I think he fits them a little bit more. Liverpool are coming under a lot of aerial attacks, and he probably won't want to go into a situation like that, going into City, maybe, who are, competing for titles this season a bit more than Liverpool. Probably will benefit him, and it'll look a bit more. Jeff, a little bit better.
If you're advising him as his mate or as his agent, what are you saying?
I'm not his agent, by the way, just so people know.
You're saying free transfer then, but if you're advising him now, like you said, a few months out to the World Cup, City potential Premier League winners, Liverpool, we know how much of a big club they are and what they can do in terms of future title challenges, current Premier League holders. What are you saying for him to do, kind of football terms, but also kind of career terms, financial as well? What kind of makes sense?
I think obviously moving, he's going to get financial benefits, but for me, if I was him, I'd be telling him, sit still. You're leading Crystal Palace, you're playing every week, you're in Europe with them. Stay there, and then your options become even bigger and better in the summer.
Because I really want to get your views on what's happened to Ruben Amorim, because when Spurs were looking for a new manager before Postecoglou, we talked about his suitability, because he was clearly the most talented young manager in Europe at the time who wasn't already being touted for a big job. Manchester United eventually got in there and got him. I don't have any doubts that Ruben Amorim is a good football manager, but something about the way the Premier League is, the competitiveness of it, and the way, and we saw the same thing at Chelsea, these coaches are failing to deal with the gigantic apparatus behind the Premier League clubs, is becoming a pattern now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, he came from a background where he knew that a working system upstairs was crucial. So I guess that's why when he pivoted after the Leeds game to the lexicon of manager rather than head coach, it was such a shock, really. And it seemed like he was trying to force something, a little bit like Enzo Maresca, a little bit like Antonio Conte before at Chelsea. And it's like we said, Danny, last night, the fact is that Ruben Amorim, knowing him from the brilliant job that he did at Sporting, so much of that was based on being a good communicator. He's one of those people who knows knows the weight of every single word. So he can't be surprised at what happened after that. And I very much doubt he is surprised about what's happened after that.
It was deliberate, Andy. We know he's a smart guy. It was deliberate.
Yeah, totally. And I do think, though, that sometimes managers, head coaches, whatever we call them here and in continental Europe, need to get out of their own way a little bit. For me, it has a little bit of a flavour of Andre Villas-Boas after his job at Chelsea, after his job at Porto, when he took the Chelsea job. He knew it was too soon. He knew it wasn't the right time. And Amorim knew it wasn't the right time to take over Manchester United, that he wanted to wait until this summer to take it. And they said, of course, to him, now or never. And he went against his own judgment, his own wisdom, and took it anyway. And I think United is obviously one of the hardest jobs in world football. It's really ground him down. And funnily enough, him as a communicator has probably given him longer in the job than he might have otherwise received. A little bit like Jurgen Klopp in his first year at Liverpool. You know, the results didn't really make it seem like it was going anywhere if you just took the raw numbers. And you can say the same for Amorim at Manchester United. The frustrating thing for United is I suspect that, like a lot of players who haven't quite cut it at Manchester United, he'll go off and do a great job elsewhere.
But so many of these managerial pronouncements are self-serving in exactly this way for their next job, so that it wasn't me, it was the people above me, you know, and there's too much of that, I think.
Well, so much has changed, hasn't it?
Always preparing their CV for the next gig, aren't they? That's
of course.
You know, concentrating your own job. Yeah. Sorry, Andy.
No, I was going to say so much has changed upstairs at Manchester United since he's been there. So much as he took this against his own instincts, I think at the same time. A lot has changed, and I think that is something that really came across in what he said yesterday as well, that the balance of power has changed, that the demands of him have changed a little bit. And I guess in terms of what he's done, he probably hasn't changed enough himself, has he?
The intransigence, though, I mean, when he did change and got away from his system, they started to look quite good. I just don't understand why he was so wedded to this thing, as if it was the only way you could ever play football. It was a very strange idea, but there we go.
Andy, thank you for that. And I know people say, well, you need to take this job now because it may never come along again. Anybody who looks at the average tenure of managers at big clubs, these jobs will be coming around with monotonous regularity. You don't need to take one until you're absolutely right for it. So much more to talk about. Give Andy, the other Andy Jacobs, the lowdown on what Chelsea can expect from Liam Rosenior, given the work he's done at Strasbourg. We make the point as well, he's being appointed off the back of his worst run in French football for quite a while.
Yeah, he is. So they've won 2 league games since the start of October. Now, of course, they've done really well in the Conference League in that time. They finished top. They finished top of the league phase, as you say. But look, with the money they've got, just like English Premier League clubs, they should be doing that. It's not far off par, to be perfectly honest, especially when the Premier League's representative is a team with no experience in European football whatsoever, even if their coach does have. But I think Rosenior is, I suppose, not many people's ideas, not many Chelsea fans' idea of the dream coach. But I think in terms of where Chelsea are at the moment and what they are as a project, and in terms of getting the most out of things as they are, it's a pretty logical appointment, I think it's fair to say, because he's someone who has had a lot of money spent for him on young, talented players who need to be made first team ready. And he has largely done that. Now, I think you could say that in the last couple of months, they've really fallen short of where they should be, because not a lot of clubs in France have any money. It's PSG and to a lesser extent Marseille, and apart from that, everyone else neither has the proverbial pot to pee in nor the window to throw it out of. But I think if you look at the fact that they started this season away at Metz with the first team in the first 11 in starting a game in the top 5 leagues of players all born in the 21st century, and it's about collective and individual player development, and he's done that so well. Now, he really is a gifted communicator where it counts, and I think you can look at some of the individual players that he's worked on and really improved them. You look at Joaquin Panakei, the centre forward, you look at Diego Moreira, who both at Chelsea and when he was on loan at Lyon looked so far short of being a first team player, and now he's one of the best wing backs in the league. We know he can get inside players' heads and make them that bit better. I suppose just the added element at Chelsea, though, is not just the pressure of the Premier League, but the pressure of being at a club where you're actually expected to win stuff.
But they've got good players, and one of them impressed me yesterday, came on in the second half. He definitely benefited from Rosenior, which is Andre Santos. I thought he played really well yesterday.
Yeah, and it was something that Rosenior talked about a while back, just probably about 3 or 4 weeks back at Strasbourg. He sort of drifted off in the middle of this press conference and said, I really miss Andre Santos. I wish I still had him. You know, we really need a player like that. And obviously, there's part of you going, oh, poor me, you know. Most clubs in this league can't afford a player like that, and because of the connection that Chelsea have with Strasbourg, you're able to get a player like that for a while. But I think he'll have a massive boost from him coming in.
Andy, we've taken up a lot of your time. A couple of quickly enunciate two stories I'm really interested in. One, tell people about the first Paris derby for 47 years, and two, how West Ham's mismanagement of strikers is sending shuddering shockwaves through European football. Let's start with Paris.
Yeah, let's start with Paris. So last night, PSG beat Paris FC, their neighbours. And when I say their neighbours, their stadium is 20 metres away from the Parc des Princes.
It's amazing.
It's got the ticket office for PSG and the club shop in it. And if you're in the hot dog stand, you feel like you can lean across and touch it. It's that close. It was at the Parc des Princes last night. The return fixture is near the end of the season. Jurgen Klopp, obviously partly involved because of the Red Bull connection at PFC. And they played pretty well. They're on a poor run at the moment, despite having a lot of money invested, backed by the man behind Louis Vuitton, of course,